Thank you. So, welcome everyone, and hello. Welcome to the English to Takeaway podcast. This is episode number 5. My name is Richard. You might know me as the Grammar Goat from social media. I'm an English teacher and content creator, and my incredible co host is.
My name is Jordan, and thank you very much for the lovely introduction. Um, my social media is English Lingo or English Lingo with Jordan, so you may have seen some of my content. I too am an English teacher as well as a content creator too. So, yes, as Richard said, this is episode number 5, and what can you expect from this episode? Well, you can expect another interesting, and this is a viewer request as well. We're going to do an interesting role play, and we've got some cool jokes that you might like. um, and I believe, Richard, you've got quite an interesting story, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. I laughed earlier there because you said, what can we expect? And I guess one of the things I love about our podcast is you never quite know what to expect. You never quite know like what we're going to talk about. But
Yes.
yeah, you're right. The rough plan is we've got some jokes today, some news stories, a role play, and of course at the end we'll give the listeners, give the viewers some English to take away to help them learn some new phrases, new expressions.
Absolutely. Yeah, we always give away 5 really good points or idioms, phrases, natural expressions, or even cultural differences that we think are useful for you guys to take away and use in your everyday communications as well. So yeah, interesting. Now, I wanted to start things off not with how are you doing, what have you been up to. I want to know your reaction to the spider picture that I sent you the other day.
My reaction was complete shock actually. The thing was absolutely huge, and I think it it was probably would sort of have taken up most of the sofa in our living room. To be honest. It was hairy, it was scary, it was everything that I hate about spiders.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Where exactly was that spider in your house?
That was in my living room, actually. Um, yeah, so I I went out and had a look in the living room, and I just saw it on the wall, uh, and I thought I had to try and take a picture of it, just to show you the sheer size of them.
Unbelievable, and I would not have been staying in your house, by the way, if I'd been there and I'd seen that on the wall. I think I would have been in the car and out of there. So that's incredible.
Yeah, completely. You would have legged it out of the house.
Exactly. Jordan, what have you been up to this week? Have you been up to anything interesting or anything?
um, so one thing that really unexpectedly happened, and I'm not sure if you've ever experienced this. It was scary. We had a blowout in my car, so we were driving along the highway. Luckily, not too fast. I think it was around 60 kilometers an hour, something like that. And my front right tire just suddenly went bang. Um, and yeah, luckily for me, it took me away from traffic and to the side of the road. If it had been the other side and it blew, it would have taken me into oncoming traffic. Um, so yeah, I've never experienced that before, and it scared me a little bit just from the surprise of it all. Really, have you ever experienced anything like that before?
Luckily, I haven't. No.
Yeah.
So when the tire blew out, did you just lose the steering completely then? Did the car just veer off to one side?
Yeah, it basically it blew out and it quickly veered, and not not too violently, but yeah, I managed to guide it to the side of the road. But that initial turn, it is yeah, it is quite the sort of the scary part, I think. And yeah, I never want to experience that again, to be honest. And I found a massive hole in my tire.
Did that sort of inspire the video that you made last week when you were, I don't know if it was a bit of road rage when you were driving, but you were, you were pretending to be, what's the word? You were a little bit cross, weren't you? A little bit annoyed, shall we say, while you were driving.
Yes.
Did that incident with the tire inspire that video idea?
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, I would probably say yeah, had a little bit to do with it. But yeah, that video was all about an interesting, because we always talk about like the politeness of British people. Like we say sorry even though we are maybe not even in the wrong. But when we're behind the wheel, we change. We're like we're we're angry people. Like you cut me off. Why did you do that? You're too slow. Hurry up.
It's a very good point, isn't it? I mean, the other day I was walking down the street on my phone and I bumped into a lamppost and I actually apologised, to the lamppost, saying
Yes,
sorry. That's how polite I am. But you're right. When you get behind the wheel, you can transform, can't you, and change.
yeah,
And road rage. I wouldn't say I suffer from road rage, but I can become quite animated and annoyed sometimes driving. One
absolutely.
thing, one thing that's interesting when I've been traveling in Southeast Asia, I've noticed that drivers in Southeast Asia use their horn a
Yes,
lot. Culturally, it's very acceptable, isn't it, to use the horn a lot, whereas certainly in the UK when you drive, you reserve use of the horn for extreme situations. What's it like in the Philippines with using your horn?
I must admit, I am also now accustomed to using the horn on a very regular basis. Just because my wife is usually sitting next to me going, you need to use your horn, or horn that motorcycle before he comes into your, like, cuts you off. So she's she's always badgering me to use the horn. Um, so I've now, after about 8 months, I've now come to be used to doing it.
Is your wife a bit of a backseat driver? Does she like telling you what to do when she's not driving?
Yeah, she enjoys I think telling me that I should be more careful. You know, uh, accidents happen here, so don't overtake here, or slow down because this area has got school kids, etc. She's very good at sort of warning me about places. So in that sense, it's pretty good. I think like it's nice to have somebody looking out for like the possible dangers, because here, unfortunately, a lot of people don't look where they're going. They just pull out. um, and yeah, it's nice to actually have somebody, another pair of eyes, looking on the road as well. So yeah, it's not too bad, luckily. Yes. Who drives the most in your family?
Well, I think whenever we go somewhere as a family, I end up driving,
Right.
which I don't mind at all. But I was going to say that I think when couples drive together, there can be friction, there can be problems. I remember my wife and I, we this is the honest truth, like we never argue,
Mm.
very, very rarely argue. But I do remember when she was learning to drive, I thought, oh, I'll help her a little bit. I'll help teach her a few things. And I remember we went to a car park, which was deserted. Thankfully, there weren't many people around. But after about 2 minutes of her driving and me trying to teach her to drive, we would have ended up having a huge Barney, a huge argument. So I just said, look, stop the car. It's not going to work. Obviously, that was the one and only time that I tried
Yeah,
to teach her to drive.
yeah,
Um, so I think, yeah, you can have quite extreme situations, can't you? In the
100%.
car, especially if you're trying to teach someone
Yeah.
to drive.
How
Uh,
how about your oldest your oldest son? Does he drive? Like, did he learn through somebody else, or have you tried to teach him?
he hasn't yet. No,
Ah,
he did. I'll use the same expression that you used earlier. He did badger me, and he did keep on at me to get me to teach him to drive
yeah,
when he turned 17. And we always meant to go to a supermarket car park on a Sunday afternoon when the supermarket's closed to try. But actually, we never have. So
right.
maybe it's something for this summer. Maybe when when
Yeah.
the yeah it's lighter in the evenings. Maybe we will go and I'll try to teach him. But you never know. That might end in an argument as well. Maybe I'm just not cut out to be a driving instructor. Maybe it's not what I should do. So
Absolutely. I think it's hard. It's hard to, especially when you're family members. I think it's so difficult to teach family members driving. It doesn't matter whether your husband and wife, whether you're, you know, father and son, mother and daughter, whatever. I always think that the person teaching is going to get frustrated because I think we have I don't know why, but we have an expectation that they should know what to do already, and like we think that they know more than they actually do know. I find it would be very difficult to teach a family member how to drive. I think, yeah.
yeah, I agree. And also, like driving instructors have dual control, don't they? They have a
Mm.
clutch, and they're fully trained. Whereas it's pretty scary if you're in a car as a passenger next to someone that really doesn't know what they're doing. I think probably I was a bit terrified, with my wife. So that's probably why we almost argued there. So, but
Absolutely.
you're right. It's difficult to teach family members to drive. I was going to ask you when you had the incident with your tire. Do you have roadside assistance in the Philippines? How did you get out of the situation with
Ah,
a huge hole in your tire?
yeah. So we had to basically go and get some people to help out. Luckily, um, my wife knew a few people in that area, so they were super kind and awesome people. They came and helped out, jacking up the car and taking the wheel off and using the spare wheel as well. So yeah, it was great. The fact that we had a lot of a lot of help actually. So yeah, there's no roadside assistance. There's no like AA or RAC that you can call.
No, sure. Are you quite handy when it comes to things like that? If you had to bite the bullet, would you have been able to change the tire yourself and done it yourself?
Yeah, I think like if I've got all of the correct tools and everything, then I don't think that it's too much of a difficult thing to do. I think that's one thing that I probably can do, but I also think like it's good to have a decent amount of help, just because in case anything goes wrong, you've got people there to help you, etc. So, yeah, if push comes to shove, no problem, I can do it. But yeah, I was thankful that we had a lot of help as well, which was nice. So yeah, luckily we had the blowout in a good area.
Yeah, exactly. You weren't in the middle of nowhere, which would have been, I guess, more difficult, right? If you'd been somewhere quite
Absolutely.
isolated.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and we kind of know, we know that area as well, which is quite good. So it wasn't a place where we didn't know anyone, or it wasn't too far away from people that we knew anyway. So yeah, it was, in a way it was lucky. We were very lucky to have it happen in that particular area. So yeah, but scary, very very scary indeed. Yeah. How
Yeah,
about
no,
yourself? What have you been up to this past week?
not a great deal. Not a great deal. I did go to the dentist the other day,
Right.
which I don't know how you feel about going to the dentist, but yeah, I wear Invisalign, which is a brace, like a
Oh,
clear brace on my teeth.
right.
So I'm very used to going to the dentist, and I've been wearing my Invisalign now for about a year and a half now, about 18 months,
Cool.
and I'm near the end of my treatment with my Invisalign. So yeah, I went to the dentist to just find out about how long I'll have to continue wearing my braces for.
Cool, cool. Is it uncomfortable, or like do you get used to it easily?
You get used to it really easily, actually. When I first had to wear my braces, it was very uncomfortable and very weird, and actually I couldn't speak properly, so I had a bit of a lisp, and I was struggling a bit with saying some words and producing some sounds. But then you quickly get used to it, and actually it feels weird now when I take out my Invisalign. It feels really weird. So in a strange way, I'll probably miss my Invisalign when I finally get rid of it. It's really weird.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So I went to the dentist, and I've got a really really nice, really kind dentist, and I enjoy going to see him.
Oh,
So
that's good. That's good.
yeah, it was good.
You
It was
you
good.
don't you don't have a phobia of dentists then?
I don't actually, funnily enough. What about you? Are you okay with dentists? Because many
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
they hate going to the dentist.
Luckily, because when I was younger, my mum, she was a dental nurse. So for me, visiting dentists, etc., was uh, common occurrence actually. So yeah, no, I'm totally okay with going to the dentist, and it's not a problem for me actually. I don't really, I don't get scared. I don't mind. So yeah, it's pretty good actually. It's part and parcel of everyday life, isn't it? You know.
No, absolutely. And well, actually, one of my kids, my middle son, he actually wants to be a dentist in the
Ah,
future.
wow.
I'm quite pleased about that because one of my sons is going to be a doctor, and the other one's going to be a dentist. So when
Yeah,
I'm old and ancient and creaky, I'll be covered pretty much, for my
yeah.
medical, my dental care. So I'm happy with that.
You just need your daughter, right?
Correct.
To
Yeah.
to be a pharmacist.
Yeah, that's probably more important, isn't it, actually, than the doctor and the dentist when we get to that age. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
But yeah, Jordan, that's probably, yeah, I haven't been up. This is a nice expression. I haven't been up to much this week,
there we go.
actually. Yeah.
Absolutely cool. But do do you find do you find that, for example, organizing your schedule to do like recordings and things like that, like how hectic is your schedule? For me, I'm pretty bad at planning things ahead of time. I kind of just video whenever I need to, and I try to um, I try to think of ideas, and if I get an idea, I go and record it straight away. Like, how do you schedule your recordings and your like creative process?
Yeah, so I try to keep the creative process as natural as I possibly can. I find that if I try and sit down and plan something or try and write something, things often don't really click, and often I don't come up with a good concept. So I can literally be anywhere doing anything when I get an idea, and then I'll quickly like write it into my phone. And I do the majority of my filming at the weekends. So
Mm.
on a Saturday or really, really busy on a Sunday filming. But
Oh.
yeah, creatively, I'll get my ideas randomly anywhere in the shower, in the gym, going for a walk, cooking lunch. Could be anywhere, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. I find myself now observing people more closely. Like, I'm I'm watching what people do, or because also with the Philippines being English speaking as well, like I'm observing what people say, how they say it. Sometimes, like if I notice any like errors in grammatical sentences, etc., I'm paying more attention to what people are doing and saying. It's just to get ideas, just to kind of feed my creative process as well. It's really weird. I never thought that I would pay attention so much to what people are doing.
I'm exactly the same. It's interesting, isn't it? I remember in the summer I was in Sainsbury's, which is a big supermarket in the
Yeah.
UK, big chain of supermarkets. So I was in our local Sainsbury's, and I was leaving Sainsbury's and someone was walking in, and he shouted to his partner, "I'm just lipping." Sorry, he shouted to his partner, "I'm just nipping to the loo," which obviously means I'm going to use the facilities. I'm going to
Yes.
use the toilet. And I really like that expression. I'm just nipping to the loo. And
Perfect.
so I decided to make a video, different ways to say I need to go to the toilet. And actually, that video did pretty well. So it's
Yeah.
funny, isn't it, where you get your ideas from?
Absolutely. Yeah. I even find myself watching TV shows or watching like YouTube videos, and I now note down some of the phrases that people use because I I want to introduce these natural phrases to my content. And yeah, it's great. It's great to kind of be a little bit more analytical in a way. But I would never do that like in a million years, to be honest. But I've started being much more sort of observant and analytical on things, just to jot down some ideas. It's really interesting. It's kind of a strange process that we go through now.
Absolutely, but for me, like it's one of the most enjoyable parts of it. The sort of creativity that you can bring to it, and having that sort of blank canvas as well that you can literally make within our niche of English language,
Yeah,
there are really endless possibilities, aren't there, in terms of what you can teach. So
absolutely.
I love that.
I think also as well, like with with a lot of English sort of content, or I mean, in terms of like learning English content, what a lot of creators do really well now is that they bring that element of fun, and it's enjoyable to see a lot of these creators coming up with their own unique spin on things, and you kind of think, that's so easy to remember because you've done it in such a really creative way. So I really enjoy seeing a lot of sort of our colleagues in a way, our fellow creators doing their own thing because they really make it much more fun to learn a language.
Absolutely, yeah. Not just English language creators as well. Many other creators, within language learning.
Mhm.
So German language, Japanese language, Korean language. I know when I was studying languages at university all those years ago, over 20 years ago, we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have social media. I had to learn from a boring dictionary and writing down words on a in a notebook basically. So you're right. I mean, creators really do bring the language to life, don't they, in their sort of unique ways and make the language memorable. So I
Absolutely,
think,
yeah.
yeah,
It
new generations are really lucky now to have that.
it's kind of strange when you start saying back in my day, like it feels like back in the Stone Age. Like I always feel like that. Like I'm like when I talk to people, I'm like, yeah, when I was growing up, I never had that, and I'm thinking, oh my god, I sound so ancient now. I'm saying like, yeah, back in my time.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to start to worry when it's not happening yet, but when my kids are listening to music and, one of their favorite songs comes on and I say something like, what is that noise or turn that off,
Yeah,
then I'll really, really start to worry. I think that I'm getting old. But
yeah.
at the moment, I quite like the music that my kids listen to as well.
Oh, that's
So
good. Yeah,
it's,
turn that racket off.
exactly. I haven't said that yet, which is good. I'm not too old yet.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. Cool. So what story did you have for us today? Is there anything yeah, interesting that you wanted to take us a look at?
Yeah, definitely. So I found a quite an interesting story online. It's about Saudi Arabia, and in
Hmm.
Saudi Arabia, they've started building the biggest, or what will be the biggest building on Earth.
Right.
So it's this huge cube-shaped building
Ah,
um, that's going to be over 300 meters high. So we're
wow.
talking we're talking a huge cube that will be probably about the same or a little bit taller than the Eiffel Tower in Paris, and it's going to have an atrium, so like the entrance area, the full height of it,
Wow.
with like a spiraling tower in the middle, and 200 million square meters of shops and tourist attractions within it. So it sounds like some, literally something from a futuristic movie. This huge, great cube
So
that they're building.
someone could effectively live in there and not leave.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess
Wow,
so.
that's
So
incredible.
I
Yeah.
was going to ask. I was going to ask you, like, maybe not in terms of a big building, but maybe a tall building.
Yeah.
What is like the tallest building that you've ever been up?
Um, I would probably have to say the Tokyo Skytree. I don't know if you went up it in December last year, or if you went around it. Yeah,
We did go up it. We went up it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
The you know the view from the top is incredible, isn't it? You get to see everything in Tokyo. It's fantastic. So I would say that's the one for me. Yeah, the Sky Tree is probably the tallest tower building that I've ever been up. Did you like it? Like was it like were you scared of the height, or are you pretty good with heights?
I'm pretty good with heights. I
Okay.
really like the lifts because you go into the lift and it's so smooth and makes no sound, and then your ears start to pop because you're so high. Um, so I enjoyed the lift part.
Yeah.
I've also been up the Eiffel Tower in Paris, which of course is nowhere near as
Mm.
tall as the Tokyo Skytree, but the Eiffel Tower is another really good one because we sort of took the stairs, so we went up the stairs to get to, I guess, the first tier of
Wow.
the Eiffel Tower, and that was a great experience as well,
Cool.
to do.
Yeah.
Um,
I,
yeah, but
I like also in the Sky Tree the glass bottom, like the flooring that they have. My daughter loved the glass bottom, the glass floor. She thought it was fantastic and started like hopscotching on it and jumping around. And my wife was having kittens. She was going crazy, but just because she was like, "Don't do that. You you don't know. It might it might crack." she she was
I've,
she was so scared, and my daughter was ever the annoyance that she can be sometimes. She was trying to drag mummy onto the the actual perspex glass, whatever you want to call it, the see-through flooring. And my wife totally refused, didn't want to go on it.
I've seen on social media. I'm not sure where it was. Maybe you've seen it. It's like a bridge which
Ah,
is
yeah.
made of perspex or glass, but it starts to crack. It looks like it's cracking. So
Mm,
they seen this. They add like a cracking effect to it as you walk across it, and people are obviously terrified walking across it because it looks
yeah,
like it's all cracking. So yeah, I
absolutely.
don't blame your wife. I think I'm okay with heights, but there comes a point where you can get a bit scared if you're really high up, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the interesting part of like these tall buildings, these tall places now, is that they do have the perspex see-through floorings. Even helicopters have them. Boats now have them. Uh, it seems to be something that tourists want. They want to be able to, look down where their feet are and see what's under them. And yeah, it's a total sort of change from how bridges were, of course, made beforehand. I don't think any engineer would have dreamed of creating a see-through bridge.
No, exactly. And the other amazing thing is, of course, in Tokyo they have many earthquakes, don't they? And the fact
Yes.
these huge skyscrapers are
Yeah.
designed to sway and move as well during an earthquake is quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Absolutely. And yeah, that can actually lead us on to um, probably we can go into an interesting story from my point of view, is that I experienced the 2011 earthquake in Japan. Actually, I was there. So the massive earthquake in Fukushima was, yeah, it was nuts. It was incredible, and the interesting part was that leading up to the earthquake, I was taking the Shinkansen, so the bullet train, to one of my jobs, one of my workplaces, and on the way there, it's basically got like a fail safe. So as soon as there's a hint of an earthquake, the power shuts off to the Shinkansen and it stops. Like, n- stops dead. Like, the train stops, the lights go out, the aircon goes off, the whole lot stops. As soon as it starts to shake. So we had that probably the week before. and then uh, a week later we had the massive one, and yeah, that was scary because coming from England, we we don't know what to do in earthquakes. We have no idea. we
Exactly.
we have no training. We don't have any idea of what it's like to experience an earthquake. So I didn't know what to do. I was on the ground floor. My flat was on the ground floor. Do I jump out of the balcony? Do I run out the front door? What like do I do? I didn't really know. So from that point of view, it was really scary actually.
So
So
were you in your flat at the time when the earthquake hit? Were
yeah,
you at
yeah,
home?
yeah. I was lucky because where I worked at that time, our offices were on the 18th floor. So Friday was my day off, and I wouldn't ever go into my office building. And yeah, I was thankful that it was my day off because apparently it was just going like this, swaying back and forth, back and forth. Um, a lot of the people working there felt nauseous. They felt sick, because the, the swaying back and forth felt like they were like seasick in a way. Um, so yeah, it's definitely a scary, scary situation.
So what should you do in an earthquake? Do you know what the correct advice is?
Yeah, basically, find a sturdy table and get under it. Basically, that's it. Um, Open the doors if you can to create a pathway through. And if you can't find a table, they do say stand in the door frame, the doorway. Um, Apparently, that's one of the safer options as well. And yeah, interestingly, if anyone ever goes to Tokyo, if they go to a place called Ikebukuro, which is not too far away from central like Shinjuku area, you can go to the fire department and they've got an earthquake simulation there, and you can actually take the simulation of the earthquake. I took my mum there. I my mum said that she wanted to experience what it's like to be in an earthquake. So I said, "Let's go to the earthquake simulation, and we'll do it."
Did what did she think of it?
She couldn't believe like the force and how unbelievably strong it was. Yeah, she was quite surprised at just the sheer strength of the earthquake, and I don't I don't think she really understood what it felt like until going on the simulation. And yeah, even myself, like I tried the simulation too, and I I felt it was mental, because we were over 100 kilometers away from the where the earthquake really was. The epicenter was in the sea, but we still felt it where I was living. But the simulation was much closer to where the actual epicenter was. So even for myself, I was shocked at how it felt. It was, yeah, horrendous. Yeah, never. I would never want to wish that upon anybody.
Absolutely not. Oh, it's an incredible thing to have experienced, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Incredible.
absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things living in Japan. If ever anybody lives in Japan, they will know exactly what I'm talking about. That you have to get used to the earthquakes.
Exactly. Wow. Amazing. Amazing story.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Cool. Actually, now I know that we talk a little bit about fluency sometimes, and I thought it would be something quite interesting for us to put on the podcast today. Is that we can see, of course, if you guys, the listeners, can understand what we are talking about when we are telling jokes, of course. Um, and we've got dad jokes. So, what are dad jokes, Richard? How would you explain what dad jokes are?
I guess dad jokes are the kind of jokes that your dad tells. So they're a bit cringe. Would you agree?
Yeah,
Cringe worthy. Sometimes a bit silly, a bit slapstick. Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
maybe maybe younger people might not get them or might not understand them.
Might not find them funny. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly.
So probably your kids will either love or hate this section because they're going to be like, "Ah, those jokes are terrible."
Probably, yeah. They'll think they're terrible. No,
Indeed. So I'm going to kick off with one that I've got here.
okay,
So we'll go back and forth and see if either of us laugh at some of these jokes, right?
okay.
So the first one that I found here, which I found funny, was dogs can't operate MRI machines, but CAT scan.
That's terrible.
It is
That is
bad.
terrible.
It's so bad.
It's a perfect dad joke. That one. That's amazing. Um, okay, I found one. I've got to read it from my phone because one thing I've got to say is I can never ever remember jokes. I'll hear a really good joke,
Yeah,
I'll think, right, I've got to remember that, and I always forget it.
absolutely.
Why did the old man fall down the well?
I don't know.
He couldn't see that well.
He couldn't see that well. Perfect. I like it. I like it. Yeah. I think the kind of the cringier they are, the more funny, like the funnier they are, right? I think that we often laugh at those situations of where they're cringier. And how would you explain that joke if somebody didn't get it?
So it's a play on words, isn't it? So it's the word well,
Hmm.
which is a homonym, I
Yep.
think you'd call it.
Yep.
So it's got two different meanings, but the same word. So one meaning of well is it's both an adverb and an adjective, like as in I can't see well,
Hmm.
can't see good, and a well is also a deep, often hole in the ground with often water
Yes.
in it. So it's a play on words.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's similar to my joke as well. Is that um, in a way we say CAT scans for um, sometimes MRI. Like they have slightly differences. Like MRI is a little bit different to a CAT scan, but a little bit similar as well. So that's why in my joke, yeah, cat scan, meaning cats can, as a play on word to another kind of test that you can do, of course. So yeah, that's those are good. I've got another one that
Go for it. Hit me with it.
this is so bad, by the way. Um,
You
I'm,
know it's bad
I'm
when you're laughing before you've actually delivered the joke.
yeah,
So you know
and
it's going to be terrible.
that's the problem. I'm not sure I can get through it with a straight face, to be fair. Um, which vegetable has the best kung fu?
Oh, I don't know.
Broccoli.
Oh God, that's awful. That's terrible.
It's, yeah, that's terrible. Absolutely terrible indeed. Yes.
Do you want one more from me? I've got one more
Go
that
ahead.
I
Yeah,
found.
one more.
So two windmills
Mm.
were sitting on a hill,
Hmm.
and one asks the other, "Do you have a favourite song?" And the other replies, "Well, all my life I've been a heavy metal fan."
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome in terms of it's terrible, but
Terrible.
it's awesome at the same time as well. Yes,
We find we find it funny.
we
We
do.
find it. Funny.
We do indeed. Uh, I got one more, and the only reason I want to use this one is because we were talking about cars earlier. Um, Dad, when he puts the car in reverse, this takes me back.
Oh God! Oh dear! I've got to say at this point, if you're about to switch off the English to Takeaway podcast, if you've had enough of our dad jokes, please bear with us.
Yes.
Are brilliant. Yeah, and I think as well. I think we said this in previous episodes that understanding jokes
Yeah,
in another language is actually pretty difficult, isn't it, for
100%.
anyone?
Yeah,
So I think if you're listening to this and you've understood our jokes, number one, they're dad jokes, but also well done for understanding them. And don't worry if
absolutely.
you didn't find them funny,
I
but we do.
I think what's interesting about like these dad jokes is that I know that they're terrible. I know that they're not that creative sometimes. But the one thing that I must say I like about them is that they're usually very, very good in terms of vocabulary and in terms of, as you said, like play on words. Like for the one about the vegetable with the best kung fu, like Brock Lee. So you're just changing broccoli to make it sound a little bit similar to Bruce Lee, of course. Um, so they really try to use vocabulary in an interesting way, I think. So I like them from a language point of view.
Yeah, definitely. And also, if nothing else, people listening have learnt the term a dad joke as well.
There we go.
I wonder if that translate. I wonder how that translates into other languages because I'm sure
Hmm.
every language must have these type of cringe jokes. So I wonder how they're described in other languages. That might be quite interesting to find out.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that would be interesting. Like, do do other languages have the same sort of terrible jokes that we've just told? Um,
Yeah,
and and are they universally also hated as well at the same time?
yeah. And are they told by dads as
Yeah,
well?
yeah. Cool. Um, shall we do the role play for today?
Let's do it. Would you like to give the backstory to the role play?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my students, his name is Michel Hernandez. He asked me to basically talk to yourself as well about the possibility of doing a role play in a really interesting situation of me being a teacher at a school, like a comprehensive school, um, and yourself being a parent of an underachieving student, and we have to discuss how well your child is doing at school. So I thought this was a really interesting situation that some parents who move to England or maybe even America and other countries may have to go through this parent teacher conversation, right? I think it's quite common for those interactions to happen.
Absolutely, and that would be one situation like the doctor patient one where you're understanding key words would be so important because as every parent knows you want to find out how your child's doing at school. So
Yes.
I would, yeah, I think it's a really cool idea actually. So thanks. Was it Michelle, the
Yes.
student?
Yeah. Michelle Hernandez, his name is. Yes.
Thanks, Michelle. What a great suggestion.
Absolutely. So, uh, what name shall we have for your underachieving child?
How about Michelle?
Okay, we can go with that one. No problem.
I don't want to cause any offence. Do you think Michelle will mind? Will he find that funny or
I'm sure. No problem. Should be fine. Should be fine. Yeah.
perfect? I don't want you to lose a student over this, Jordan.
Oh no, I'm sure he'll find it quite interesting. Yes.
I'm
All
only
right.
joking. All
Um,
right, Michelle. Right.
okay, so let's have a try then. Of course. Okay. Um, Thank you very much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to meet you. So thank you very much indeed.
Oh, thanks very much, Mr. Page. Michelle has told me a lot about you. I'm really interested to find out how he's doing at school.
Okay, no problem at all. Well, one thing that I must say is that Michelle's enthusiasm in class is second to none. He's very enthusiastic in a lot of our activities, and he's always game to try and perform well in many of the activities that we do. So I can't fault him on trying, of course. I think for me, that's a really good positive point. However, the one thing that I must say is that I'm a little concerned with the lack of substance that he's producing, especially in his homework. He seems to be lacking. I don't know whether that means he's not understanding everything that we're covering. He seems to get it in class, but when I receive his homework, it's another story. So I don't know. Can you shed some light on this? Do you have any information of whether he understands what he's doing for homework?
I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you for the compliments that you gave Michelle. Can you be more specific, Mr. Page, about the homework that he's not doing well? Are there any subjects in particular that he's letting himself down in?
So in particular, I would say that mathematics is one area where he seems to be performing below par, and below the average of most of other students. Um, I think from what I see in his homework, he attempts part of it and then seems to not complete it. That's why I mentioned my concern about whether or not he's understanding absolutely everything. Um, and another subject that he seems to be struggling with is English. Spoken English, uh, fantastic, doing really, really well. very active in the class, seems to enjoy it a lot and loves communicating. But when it comes to expressing himself in written form, he doesn't seem to produce the same output as he does when speaking. So if you've noticed anything at home, whether he's expressed that he doesn't understand, yeah, I would like to know, because I'm not aware that he doesn't understand anything.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Page. I'll take that all on board, and I'll speak with Michelle this evening about his homework. And I really hope that we'll see some improvements in the effort that he puts into his homework. So thanks very much for that. It's really valuable feedback that you've given me. Thank you.
No problem. If he is struggling with his homework, he should approach myself or other teachers of the subjects. Of course, he can approach me, being his form teacher. That's no problem at all. Or he can approach the subject teachers as well, and I'm sure they will be willing to guide him and help him with any extra homework that he might need to do for him to catch up and be able to understand better. Or uh, if he wants to sometimes stay behind, he should try to approach the teachers to get them to explain to him one to one a little bit more, so that he can understand the homework when he takes it home better. I think maybe those suggestions could help him progress better than he actually is.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Page. Thanks very much.
All right. Do you have any other questions?
Um, maybe just what's the subject that you think he's best at?
Okay. So, um, as I mentioned, I think his speaking in English is fantastic. Absolutely no problem. So I would say that's one of his strong areas. And also, he loves music, and he seems to really get the music that we listen to, that we play, and he really, really enjoys and gets so enthusiastic in learning about the different artists and the meanings behind the songs. So, yeah, music seems a huge passion for him.
Well, that's great to hear. Michel is a keen musician actually, and he plays quite a few instruments. So
Oh, that's good.
that's lovely to hear, Mr. Page. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. If you do have any questions, any further questions that you want to ask me, just drop me an email whenever, and I'll be more than happy to reply with any suggestions that I have. Of course,
Thank you very much.
no problem. Thank you very much indeed.
Great.
All
Well,
right.
yeah, that was brilliant. I mean, you were a very professional teacher there. Have you ever did you do parents' evenings as a teacher ever?
Never, never,
Oh,
never ever.
okay.
I I have luckily I would say I have never been involved in parent teacher meetings.
Well, I'm sure you will be in the future anyway, as a parent, won't you?
Yes, as
Yeah,
on your side.
yeah, exactly. Which is a lot easier, I think.
Yeah.
Often, yeah.
How about for yourself with your three kids? Have you been, of course, sitting in on the parent teacher meeting sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I've done both sides actually because
Oh,
I used to work in a language school in Poland that did have
ah,
parents' evenings quite
right.
interestingly. So, yeah, I had to obviously be the teacher at the parents' evening, but yeah, with three kids, I've been to many parents' evenings as a parent. So yeah, It's always interesting to go to.
Absolutely, yeah. It's I think I think for some parents, it's it's daunting to hear about your kid and how well they're doing or how well they're not doing. Um, yeah, I think that kind of sometimes unknown, isn't it? So, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's always an interesting experience. I would imagine.
absolutely. But great role play, great suggestion. So thanks
Yeah,
again, Michelle.
absolutely. I hope that helps, and I will certainly talk to him about it in our future lessons, of course. So yes, lovely, really good suggestions from Michelle there. So thank you very much indeed. Shall we do our five takeaway points?
Let's do it. Yeah, some really interesting language that came up today. Shall I kick off? Shall I start us off?
Perfect.
We had something that came up a couple of times with an animal to badger, to 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 badger someone to do something is
Yeah.
the verb pattern. So to badger someone to do something is to like keep on at someone, isn't it? To persist in trying to get someone to do something.
Yeah.
I think you used the example of your wife in the car. Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Yep. I said that she badgers me to use the horn um, to avoid any accidents, of course. So, yes, I can understand because of, as we talked about, the cultural differences of driving in Asia, of course. So, yes, it's a very interesting. Yeah, an interesting expression that we can use, of course. Yeah, it's a good one.
Definitely. I mean, my wife often badgers me to paint our bathroom because our bathroom needs a lick of paint. So she's always badgering me, go and paint the bathroom, go and paint the bathroom. So that's another nice example
There
of,
we go.
well, maybe not a nice example, but to badger
Yeah,
someone.
absolutely. Cool. And the next one, the one that the one that you came up with, especially talking about um giving your wife driving lessons, you mentioned having an argument or having a Barney. And this is a great expression to use as a synonym for an argument, basically. You can directly replace argument with Barney. You can say, oh, that couple over there are having a Barney. It means they're having an argument. So yeah, that's a great one. I love that one actually. I haven't heard it for a long time, so it was great to hear.
I think it's quite informal as well, isn't it? It's quite an informal
Yeah,
expression.
yeah,
Uh,
definitely. Yeah, I wouldn't I wouldn't use it in any sort of business setting or anything like that. Yeah, I would say that it's very casual way of speaking, so very informal indeed. Yes.
the next expression I had was another one that you said that I actually haven't heard for a long time, and that was to have kittens. So
Ah,
you said my wife, I think it was when you were on the top of the sky tree with the transparent floor, and your wife was getting scared because
yeah,
your daughter was tap dancing
yeah,
on the
yeah.
floor, and you said my wife was having kittens. So
That's right.
it's often used in the progressive, I think, isn't it? I am having kittens,
Mm.
or I was having kittens to be scared.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of a strange synonym. Sorry, a strange idiom, really, isn't it? Like to when we say to have kittens, meaning to be scared. I don't know the origin of it. It's a very weird one to for us to use in that particular context, I think. Yeah, but it's a funny one. It's definitely an interesting one.
It is. It
Indeed.
is.
Cool. And the next one, another idiom actually that you came up with is bite the bullet. Um, and I love using this one. I think this one is used in a variety of different scenarios. You can use it informally, you can use it formally as well, within business, in some situations, uh, meaning that you basically just have to do something that maybe you're thinking about doing, or maybe you don't particularly want to do, but in the end, you have to bite the bullet and do it, right? No excuses, just do it, of course. Do you think it can be used in informal situations as well?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It's great that you brought that one up. I think out of the three idioms that we've had so far, I think that's probably the most common and the most useful actually that students of English can use in their everyday speech to bite the bullet.
Definitely. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant one.
Cool. And one more?
Yeah, yeah. One more was something you said during the parents' evening, which I thought was a nice phrase. It was second to none.
Ah,
Uh,
okay.
I can't remember exactly the reference. It was something like, Michelle's work in class is second to none.
Mm,
So it basically means it's very, 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 very good.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think second to none, again, is another versatile phrase in terms of we can use it in casual settings and we can use it in formal settings as well. It's not restricted to being used in one particular area. So yeah, if you want to use it in daily conversation in business, it's very versatile in that way, in that regard actually, which is good.
Yeah, no, exactly, exactly. So, for example, the dinner was second to none. It
Mhm.
was very, very good. A bit like top notch, actually, from last week.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. It's not too far away from top notch. Although I would probably lean towards using second to none in a much more formal setting, of course, rather than I wouldn't use top notch in a formal setting, of course. Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course, good
Um,
point. Yeah,
but
good
yeah,
point.
they're definitely very, very similar indeed. So cool. So to recap, the first one was,
To badger someone to do something,
yeah. Number two,
to have a Barney,
to have a Barney, an argument. Yeah. Number three,
to have kittens, to be scared,
yeah, to have kittens. Yeah, good. Number four,
to bite the
to
bullet,
bite the bullet, to do something, of course. Yeah. And the last one,
second to none.
there we go. Fantastic. Yeah. Some good idioms today. We had a lot of idiomatic phrases that we used in today's podcast. So for those of you who love idioms, there you go. You've got some interesting idioms to use.
Absolutely, some great idioms there. And should we just say, as we come to the end of the fifth episode, if you've got any ideas for us on the podcast, so any news stories that you want us to talk about and discuss, any role play ideas that you'd like us to do, please write in. The email address is englishtotakeawaypod@gmail.com.
Perfect. Absolutely no problem at all. Once again, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I cannot wait until the next one, indeed. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jordan. It's been second to none. It's been amazing. Thank
It's been
you very
top
much.
notch.
Absolutely. All right. See you next week.
Take
Bye,
care.
Jordan.
Bye bye.